Good morning. Today we are going to explore one of the Hibernate property from Spring Boot's application.properties file, nothing but spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl-auto. We are going to explore this key from application.properties file and its value, use of value, when we are going to use all of the details. So basically, let's go with that definition first. Spring JPA Hibernate DDL-auto is a Spring Boot configuration property, yes, that control how Hibernate handles data scheme generation and management. Basically, the definition is that by using this property based on the value, we can manage the table, how the tables will be created, how the table will be updated, created, deleted. We're gonna handle based on this property value. So DDL stands for data definition language, this SQL definition. Basically by using DDL, we create table, alter table, drop table, truncate table. Create means we will create a new table. Alter means we will alter the add columns, delete columns, modify columns, that kind of stuff. Drop means deleting the complete table. Delete the rows, delete complete table itself. Truncate means simply delete all the rows. So these are all detail operations. This we can perform by using the key and its value. How to configure, where to configure. So this key, Spring JPA Hibernate DDL Auto, basically we can configure it application.properties file or YAML file. Spring supports both the formats. If you go with application.properties, then say Spring JPA Hibernate DDL Auto equal to one of the value, similar to YAML. Key point. This tells Hibernate what to do. Database schema when the application starts. Basically, when you have the value for this particular key, whenever you start an application or reload the application dynamically, changes gonna impose. Okay, for this key, basically we have five values: none, validate, update, create, drop. None means during the start of the application or reloading the application, Hibernate do not check for the tables and its information. Just try to start without checking anything. So the backend through SQL queries, I mean commands, you need to create tables, alter tables, you need to manage backend. So if you say the keys value as none means backend, make sure that you need to configure correct table, the correct details. So application.property file pointing to none means Spring Boot doesn't check anything with the table. Just start using the table. If everything application and database both are sync, we will be fine. Otherwise, you will get some exceptions and errors. Then the value validate. Validate, it will check the tables as well as entities. Based if everything looks good, okay, otherwise it will throw exceptions. Update. It's like a based on the value update, it will try to modify the table. Create means it will create the tables. Create drop means create and drop tables. I will explain next pages detailed way. If you look at visual representation, none is safe. Create drop is like a risky. So none to create drop, safe to risky. So depending on the situation, you have to use the value for the key. Let's go with the basic value none. So as I say, Hibernate perform no database operations here. So the schema must exist and managed externally means yeah, get the SQLs from DBA, run it, make sure that database is correct before you start the application. So DBA operations will be performed backend manually. We are not doing any database modification from the application, means from Spring Boot. So yeah, configuration. So you need to say Spring JPA Hyper DDL auto equal none. This is very important. Based on that, it's going to perform those operations. So when to use? So at production level, we will use none because if you have different values here, the application is trying to create tables, modify tables. It's kind of risky operation. So for production, always use none unless you don't know the exact change, how it's going to impact. So as I said, when using database migration tools, okay, this is a different thing. And when I say when database DPA manages the schema means because application is managing, not changing the tables because of none. Backend, those DPA guys, database guys, has to provide the SQLs you need to run. So backend you need to manage the table manually. Here you will have more control on the database because explicitly backend you are running the modifying the tables. Code level, no modification, just read only. It's like a safer side for the production. So example scenarios, yes, all databases must be go through change management and from the DBA. So externally we are modifying tables. So we are not changing from the application. So make sure that you use the values none. So if you forgot to create tables from the backend, it will Spring doesn't create the tables application during the startup of the application. It will throw errors. So that's the use of none. Next, look at validate. So validate here actually what it will do, it will not create tables like none. It will do not modify like none. Here, Hibernate compares the entity mapping with the existing database schema. Means it will check the existing tables, it check the entities, both are looks same, no problem. Otherwise, it throw exceptions and application may not start. So it's like a validation, like a verify or assert. It will throw exceptions like the table that you're referring and the entity name. If the both are same, okay. If there is a difference, it will throw errors as well as columns and everything. So basically, we use value to check if the backend tables as well as our entity classes are same or not. We will validate. So throw exception, as I said, makes no changes in the database. Correct. So you have to say for the configuration level, spring.jpa hibernate.ddl-auto equal to valid. You should say. Previously in the other operation we say none, but here we should say valid. So it's checking the entities as well as database both are same or not. If not, throw exceptions. So this you can use for the production level and CI/CD pipeline catches schema mismatch errors. When you use this particular thing, it will throw errors if both are not matching. Okay. So yes, we can validate that table exists or not, column exists or not, length. All these validations we can validate with the valid value for that key. If something is not correct, schema validation exception that you get. Next, explore the value update for the key. So in the application of properties file, we say spring JPA happened DDL-auto equal to validate. Sorry, update. Previously we were using validate, before that none. So we can use update. It's like a third value. So this we should be very careful with this when you say update. So when the application starts or reload, Hibernate compares the existing schema, means existing tables. If the entity table has two columns like a first name, last name, and the database has like a three columns, it will ignore. But database has a two columns and entity has a three columns, it will try to create a new column based on the code. If the database table has a first name and this guy entity has a first name EE spelling mistake, again Spring is going to create a new column. So we should be very careful. It's always check with the table and columns are matching with the table. If not, create table, column, anything. So we need to be careful with that. So add new table, columns, constraints. Yeah, if it is update, never remove existing columns and tables. It's an advantage. So basically, as I said, any mismatch, it will create a new column, new table. new constraint. So that's a thing happens here. Attempt to preserve existing data. So do not delete the tables and do not delete the columns. The column is mismatched, it will create a new column. So old columns, old tables will be available. So when to use? Yeah, definitely. For the development purpose in your local, you can use update, no issues. Yes, you can. It will create tables, update tables, unstart very fast. And yeah, schema change also it will very fast. Warning: not recommended for production. Yes, if you use this for production, small table change, it will create a new table. Column change, it will create a column. So that's the thing actually. So yeah, can leave orphaned columns means if you code level spelling mistake entity has a column wrongly the type of the column name means it will create a new column. So start using new columns, old columns can be ignored. That's what it means. So we should be very careful. So create is like a fourth value that we can use. When you say create means if you okay, let's say configure. How do we configure? Spring JPA Hibernate DDL-auto equal to create. So when you say create means drop all existing tables. When starting an application, if you see the tables already exist, it will delete the table. It will create a new table, no doubt. It will freshly create all the tables. All data is lost in every application start or restart. Yes, if you say create means straight away it will delete the existing tables and create new tables and start using. So you can use this for the testing local purpose, initial development, demo, but never use for production because if you start using create, it will delete the tables means I know the situation. Okay, so very careful with that. Yes, this is the flow. It will start the application, Hibernate connects to the database based on the application and property file, and if the table exists, boom, drop the table. Okay, I get the same thing. Other tables. It will if it's employees available, drop. Department available, drop. Create employee, create department. So application is ready. So existing table will be gone. That's the problem here. Create a drop. It is similar to create, but create drop behave little slightly different. So you know how you need to configure means is like a yeah same thing for the key. You should say create minus drop or hyphen drop. So during the starting of the application, create all the tables, drop all the applications at shutdown. This is very important. It will create tables if there are not. It will create when the application is shutting down. It will drop the tables. So like a use and throw. Starting of application, it create tables. You do your operations. When you shut down the application, it will drop all the tables. So before starting the application, after starting the application, or after shutting down the application, you see no tables. Yeah. So never use for production. If data exists, it will drop it and create the tables. And during shutdown, also it will delete the tables. So this is the flow. Application start, drop existing table, create new tables, application run, and drop all the tables. So database is empty. So empty, empty, drop, drop, create. So it's like if any tables are available, delete, then create, application execute the flows, shutting down the application, delete the tables. Okay, chat comparison. So if you look at here, none is always safe because you do not create tables, do not create columns, do not alter columns. So it's always use. Valid. Same thing. Do not create tables. Do not modify columns. It just validates the schema, means structure of the table. So yeah, here, yeah, it will do not deal with the database. Do not do anything. Means data will be existing data will be there here, 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 here. Update is a problem. So it will create tables, update the schema. Do not check for the schema changes. I mean, if the schema is different, it's gonna create new schemas. I mean to say, okay. So it maintain the data. Perfect. Create means it will create new tables. It doesn't do schema checks. It doesn't validate schemas. So be careful with that. It will drop the tables and create new tables. And it's not safe for production. Create drop. It will create tables and it drop tables, drop it shutdown. So the difference here is that both are same. Here drop it shutdown, no. Here drop it shutdown, yes. Means if you use this, if you shut down the application, you still see the tables. But here if you use this particular value, it will create tables. When you shut down, it will delete the tables. So that's the difference here. For production level, you can use none or validate. For the development level, you can use update and create drop. So that's the thing. So if you look at here, mm, you can have multiple application and properties, dev, test, production environment. Depending on that property file, you can have like a update, create, or create drop. So if you say like a application prod environment, you can have like application prod properties file, and you can have like a the value will be valid or none. For the testing, you can have like a create or drop. For development, you can have anything. So you can have three different application dot properties file. You can switch between and you can execute. So be careful with that. Otherwise, you will mess up with the database and tables. So yeah, this is how you run. So you're running the Java file by providing the profile because we have different profiles here. Okay. So be careful with what you do. So here one more thing I am repeating here. This is very important. Cheat sheet. None. Do not create table. Do not drop. Do not update. Do not validate. It's very safe for the production. Valid. Do not create table. Do not drop table. Do not update table. Valid. Just valid. Throw an exception. Very safe for the production. And update. Yes, this guy create tables. Do not drop tables because it will create new tables. Existing will be there. Orphan tables columns will be available by using this guy. Yes, it will update the tables columns. Do not check the validation. Do not validate actually existing. So it create means it will create tables, drop tables, no update, no validate, never use for production. Drop, create tables, drop tables, no update, no validation, never use for production. So the difference between this guy and this guy is that it will create tables on the start. When application is shutting down, you drop the tables. But this guy, when application is shutting down, you do not drop the columns or tables. That's the difference. Yeah, now let's look at the code. So I have created a sample project. If I go here, spring.jpa.hibernate.ddl-auto, I'm using none, which means the table should be created backend. Otherwise, application do not start. I mean, we get some error. So, and also if you look at here, so this table should be there in the database. Otherwise, we get errors. So if you look at this run this, there is no table. So let's run this project. See, it is failing. Table doesn't exist. So because of this property, it's not creating any table. So we should create table backend to use this option. It's like create. Okay. Rerun the application. See, it's dropping the existing table and creating a new table. I did select star versus safe side. So run this guy. See, table is created. Users. Shut down the application. Still we see users because this is create. It will create the table. It do not drop. So if I restart the application, it will drop and create the table again. See, it's dropping the table and creating new table because of create. Let's do create and drop. So dropping the table, creating the table. Let's shut down. Okay, let's check the table. So we have table. Let's shut down. See, table is dropped because of create drop. Let's say update. It's creating table because previously it was removed. Okay, select start from. Okay, now what I will do? I'll shut down the application. I'll shut down and restart. So it will not create table. It will use existing table. Say it didn't create the table. It's using existing table. Current users the table. So what I will do? Okay, let's say last name. Okay, last name is not here. Just rerun. See, it using existing table and added a new column. See, last name came. So I will do name is first name. First name. Let's rerun. See, added a new column. So name will be there. It's created new first name. So this is called half column.